Hi, Neil here, and this is my sound design workflow with the Prophet 6. One of the questions we get asked a lot is, how do I make my own sounds from scratch? In this video, I'm going to cover my thought process when designing new sounds with the Prophet 6. Let's make a patch together and I can show you some of the hidden sweet spots that I found in this synth over the years. Okay, so rule number one is always start from a blank slate or an init patch. To do that on the Prophet 6, we hold preset and press right. There we go, we get just a plain sawtooth. For each new patch I work on, I like to have a core idea of the sound that I'm going to create. First of all, I need to make a decision on what type of sound it will be. Will it be a bass, a lead, a pad, etc. Once I've made that decision, it's time to have a concept for the patch in the back of my mind. This is all about getting creative, looking at the controls you have available to you on the synthesizer and pulling ideas from your sound design repertoire. For example, I could aim for the patch to be using triangle waveform or waveforms, and then using the distortion to add extra harmonics. Another option would be to use frequency modulation or hard sync of the oscillators, or another way to kickstart the patch would be to use the ring modulator in the effects section. For this sound though, I'm going to aim for a subtractive patch, a couple of tri-saws, and then use the LFO section to give some audio rate modulation. Let's give it a go. So beginning with the source, let's start by dialing in our tri-saw waveforms. From here we can tune the oscillators, so let's go an octave down for oscillator 1, so that would be C1. And oscillator 2, let's tune it a perfect fifth and an octave above, so that's G2. Using the mixer, we can blend the two oscillators and add in a touch of noise to bring them together nicely. Envelopes next, and this is to shape the main amplitude of the sound. We're going to go with a slightly longer release, medium sustain and a touch of decay. We'll also bring the attack up just a little bit, because if you have it too low, you can sometimes get a click that can be desirable, but not in this case. We're going to just slowly bring the attack up. Then into the subtractive stage of applying a filter and the envelope to the filter if needed. So once we have the envelope amount set, we can dial in the filter envelope shape. So with this, we want almost like a short plucky sound. So we'll go for a no sustain, a touch of release and a touch of decay. Here we can also engage the filter keyboard tracking. So we'll engage the keyboard tracking, we'll set it to full, and it's subtle but can go a long way when playing a sound over a few octaves. Let's play this now, and as you can hear, with the full keyboard tracking enabled, the lower notes are darker and the higher notes are brighter. So let's listen to that. A little trick I've found with the filter is to push the resonance all the way up on the high pass and dial in the cutoff amount. It doesn't self-oscillate like the low pass filter, but it gives a nice little bump at the cutoff frequency amount. After shaping the main sound, I would then look to the modulation options to further develop the patch. Whether that's going down the route of frequency modulation, filter modulation, amplitude modulation, or pulse width modulation, I know, there's a lot of modulation, all four if I'm feeling a bit bonkers and want something a little twisted. Let's try that out. Sorry, I could get lost in there for days. Then finally, I would move on to the effects. If the effects were a core part of the sound design, say the ring mod, I would have made that decision at the beginning when choosing my oscillators. Likewise, if using a large amount of chorus as a distinct part of the patch. However, in this example, I just want the effects to be an overall sweetener, so a reverb and delay are my go-tos. When getting to know a synth, I like to experiment and to push it into different areas to make it break up. Whether that's using audio rate modulation with the LFOs, getting creative with super fast clock speeds on the arpeggiator, or finding little sweet spots within the onboard effects, there's always something that you can find. For example, in the LFO section, assign the random LFO to the amp and set the frequency as fast as it will go. Now, by raising the mod wheel or turning the initial amount, you will get an extremely pleasant noise. And there's a certain spot within this frequency knob that it sort of goes from this white noise to this broken noise, which is, the aesthetic to me is more like an old tape machine or like a vinyl crackle. Let's have a listen. Just there. Just there. Noise. Crackle. And you can dial in the amount of that with the mod wheel or the initial amount, whichever you like to choose really. Okay, here's one of these quick tips on a performance aspect of the low frequency oscillator. Let's again put some amplitude modulation and filter modulation in. We'll set the shape to a reverse sawtooth, and let's just have a little play and see what we can come up with. Okay, next up is the fast clock speed on the arpeggiator I was talking about earlier. It can be really useful for these sort of atmospheric drones, pads, textures. Let's give it a go. So generally what you want to do is you want to make the clock speed a division of your main tempo that you're going to do a track. So for example, if I'm doing a track at 125, I can have my clock speed at 250. got lost in that again. Okay, and the last one is aimed more at performance, using varying amounts of oscillator 2 for filter frequency modulation in the polymod section. This can really deliver some extra grit out of the filter. So a big thank you for making it all the way to the end of the video. I hope you picked up some tips and tricks along the way. I've prepared a free download in the description below, which contains a bunch of loops that we created with the Prophet 6 for the recent Prophet 6 preset library. If you haven't heard that yet, make sure you visit the website and listen to the previews. Before you go shooting off, if you like crazy sound design, make sure you check out Ed's recent video covering the syntracks. I'll link to that somewhere over here. Okay, thanks again, and see you again soon.